Stoli Vodka is one of the world's most awarded premium vodkas. With a commitment to uncompromising quality since 1938, Stoli controls every aspect of its vodka making, from planting, harvesting the finest ingredients, to distilling and bottling. This process has been followed for decades to guarantee the consistency and quality and signature ultra-smooth taste in each iconic bottle produced. Isn't it time you picked up Stoli Vodka for a try? For those who know their vodka well, and themselves even better, Stoli, the vodka. Check out Stoli as the official vodka in Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. Enjoy responsibly. 40% alcohol by volume. Imported by Stoli Group USA, LLC, New York, New York.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey again today, hanging out with Mike. And Mike, we got Fitz and the Two Towers of Golic making their return this week. And I know you guys come to this show and this network for sports, entertainment, escapism. We're going to get there, but we obviously start today with heavy hearts on the heels of the tragedy in Parkland, Florida, where a former student went on a shooting spree at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, killing at least 17 adults and children. Our very own Stu Gotts and his family live in Parkland. He will join us later this morning, but we want to start by making sure we send out our thoughts, prayers for the victims, their families, and the community affected by all this.
Yeah. Normally, obviously, when we have Stu Gotts on, we have a little fun, but certainly it'll take a bit of a serious tone as he's tweeted about, the incident, Liz walking distance from that school and such. And I mean, I don't even know where to go anymore, Mike, with this. I mean, it's just time and time and time again, we go through the same thing. And then we'll go through the same thing, it seems, after this, that people will argue about what should happen and nothing will get done and we'll wait for the next one to happen. It gets so depressing, especially when, teenagers here are involved and when it's been younger kids involved, whether it's a movie theater or schools, it's just time and time again. I don't have the answers. I know this is when we look to our leadership to have the answers, whether it's state leaderships, national leaderships, whatever, to come up with decisions, to come up with answers. And, we end up, unfortunately, just kind of shaking our head that nobody can all get together and say, okay, can there at least be the start of something, some kind of solution, so we don't have to live through this ridiculousness that we're living through, and then we just wait for the next time for it to happen and nothing gets done. I mean, I don't even know where to go anymore.
It's a situation where it's tremendously sad, but I think people need to make it tremendously personal. I think there's a lot of spinning of tires that goes on in social media when things like this happen from people on both sides that just sit and point and attack each other. If you have a chance, I'd recommend taking a look at Bomani Jones's timeline from yesterday. I thought he did a really good job summarizing the fear that should come with this, because it happens so often, unfortunately, that we end up treating it like an abstract. Like you said, you sort of become numb to it. Stu Gotts was the first person I texted yesterday because I don't know exactly what high school his daughters go to down there, but I know he's got two daughters that are about high school age, and you immediately jump to the people that you know in these situations. Stu tweeted yesterday, I live walking distance from Stoneman Douglas High School, my hometown of Parkland. Many of our friends are hurting tonight. Our hearts go out to everyone. What should not be forgotten are the incredible acts of kindness I witnessed that make me incredibly proud to say I live here. But I thought of a person I know, and I think that's a problem with a lot of these is we all treat it like it's someone else. This is very close from being on your doorstep at some point, and I think more tends to happen when you make it deeply personal, when you realize that there is nothing that separates you from the people that were affected by this other than randomness and luck. And so you look at this situation and your heart bleeds for them, but make it personal. Remember that could be your neighbor's son or daughter. That could be your son or daughter, and understand and proceed with that in your mind before anything else.
Listen, I agree, and it makes me angry. And where does the anger go then? I mean, we all get mad and we all want to change. And everybody will stand up and talk about a change again. Let's do something about it. And then what do? Well, what happens?
Vote.
Where does it go?
I think, though, Mike, to your point earlier, we got to look to leadership, whatever that means, because we're not solving the problem. We can't solve the problem. But the reason leadership, like my hope is that the people that lead us in these times are smarter than we are and can come together and say, okay, here's what needs to happen and here's how it can happen. Because that's the real solution.
Hold them accountable. Hold them accountable with the way that you vote, with the way that you look into these issues, because we can trust people to make decisions, but at the end of the day, we have to own our agency in this process and say if something is not being done, then we need to change who is doing the things that need to be done.
for more details on this as it continues to unfold. As always, you can go to abcnews.com. I'm not going to pretend there's an easy transition from what we're talking about to sports, but we know that you guys turn to us for sports and for some fun. So we're going to get to the sports side of it now.
It's time for Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
Kevin Durant became the 13th player to score 50 points with multiple franchises, but the Warriors lost 123-117 at the Trailblazers.
Yeah, how about that? He's the 13th different Warrior player to score 50 points in a game. No other franchises had more than 9 different players score 50 in a game here. So, again, you get the big scoring game, you let the one guy go off, but you still win the game. Damian Lillard, not to be outdone, had 44 points for the Trailblazers, has a franchise record 133 points in his last 3 games. So, nice little 3-game stretch going into the All-Star break, and that's basically where we are right now. But it will get interesting in our next note of where we are now with the Warriors and the Rockets.
Yeah, going to be very interesting. Dame $, great game for him. And we talked about for the Cavs getting to go into All-Star break on a high note. For the Warriors, whether it was Steve Kerr feeling compelled enough to shake things up and make Draymond and those guys coach to try and shake them out of the rut, now going in on a loss into the All-Star break, no one's going to sound the alarms for them yet, but it's a very interesting look at a team that's had a long run of success, that's been around each other for a long time, and how you kind of sustain that.
I love the fact, can we just acknowledge that when you say Dame Dollar, it sounds so good. Yeah. When I say it, it sounds so terrible. I mean, it's just true. You
got to say it and just treat it like it's supposed to be there. Treat it like it's normal.
I can't. It's never going to happen. Interesting note from Riley about last night's game. Hall of Famer Bill Walton was on the call for us. Bill Walton never scored 40 in a game.
Never scored 40 in a game. Is that amazing?
Yeah, but he can smell colors, so
good
joke's
point
on you guys.
And we're just going to go to the next thing.
Off the top.
Mike, you just mentioned it. This is where it gets interesting. The Rockets won their 10th straight game to move half a game ahead of the Warriors in the West.
Yeah, they have the All-Star break, the best record in the NBA for the first time in franchise history. 4 weeks ago, they traded the Warriors by 5 games. Now they're above them by that half a game. It really looks odd in the standings at the All-Star break. They're 29-3. 29-3 when James Harden and Chris Paul both play this season. That would be a 74-win pace over an 82-game schedule. They're 7-0 when both play against current top 7 teams, winning by an average of almost 15 points. So this is a team we all point to. I know we have the reconstructed Cavs, but to even get them back to Golden State's got to make it to the finals. And boy, it's the Houston Rockets that are saying, hold on, why not us? Why not now?
Yeah, Daryl Morey and company, the architects of that flip the math model that Golden State's made so successful, and Mike D'Antoni and that offense that goes back to the Phoenix Sundays that really all contributed to the style of basketball we're seeing now. James Harden, we mentioned it yesterday. This feels like finally his MVP season amidst all the other ones that he's been a part of, and doing it with way less touches than last year, way fewer touches. Usage rate was through the roof, 95 touches a game last season, down to 78.9, but still averaging more points per game than any player in Rockets history at the All-Star break at just over 31.
Harden, absolutely. I wasn't here yesterday for that conversation, is having clearly the MVP season in my mind. The other stat that I think is interesting, when you add their third guy, we talk about how it takes 3, whatever that may look like. When you add Capella to that lineup, 28-1 when they have their power 3. That's 28-1. That is a staggering number going into the All-Star break, and it doesn't feel like a padded number. It feels like a real number. Night in and night out, they just look better than everybody.
Yeah, they're for real.
This is an area where I have to admit I was wrong too, because I saw the Chris Paul acquisition this summer and I said it's good. They're going to be better. I didn't think it made them exponentially better because it's a redundant skill set for the most part, but you remember that the strength and what you need to beat Golden State is being able to do it with someone on the court all the time.
But at the same time, sacrifice of self and ego is not something that anybody can predict.
No.
Both of those guys were going to have to be willing to take less touches.
Right.
That's not something you just don't know how that's going to play out. So we're seeing how it plays out. And it certainly reminds us all that the Western Conference Finals are going to be far more entertaining than anything the actual NBA Finals.
Hold on now. Whoa. Easy on my Cavaliers, my friend.
Wow.
Okay.
We'll get into your Cavaliers. We'll get into your Cavaliers.
Okay.
That's a little tease. That's coming. Before we get there, though.
Off the top.
Wow.
Kentucky lost to number 10 Auburn Wednesday. It's its fourth straight loss. The Wildcats' longest losing streak in 9 seasons.
Yeah, pretty bad for them. Kentucky did make a field goal in the last 5 minutes of the game. Auburn went on a 14-5 run. Right now, Kentucky's 6-7 in SEC play. It's the latest into a season that they have been under 500 in conference play since finishing 8-10 in the 88-89 season. Still probably a good bet to make the tournament. They're sitting at 17-9. But not the teams we're used to from John Calipari playing with his one and dones and then having them all go in the draft.
It should highlight for us just what a ridiculous feat he's accomplished over this stretch of time, averaging, basically a Final Four every other year, a first-round draft pick every year, a lottery pick, I should say. This has been a guy that has gamed the system the way it's been set up in recent memory better than anyone. And so for a down year like this, I think it should up the appreciation.
Well, and no matter how hot your streak gets, when you roll the dice consistently with one and done, sometimes you're just not, the dice aren't going to roll your way. We should give a little bit of love here. I know nobody's paying attention yet to college basketball. I understand that. SEC basketball this year is up. It is better than the product that people have perceived SEC basketball in the past. So I'm just saying that Auburn, Tennessee, Missouri, they're all playing better basketball than we're used to seeing from the SEC. So I think it's a little combo of Kentucky's down. The rest of the SEC isn't the usual barrel of stink that it is.
Where do you live?
Bristol, Connecticut.
No.
That's wow, well played, good
You don't
sir.
live where your air mattress is. You live where the headboard is.
I live in Nashville, home of the last place Vanderbilt Commodores, unexpectedly in the SEC.
That's true. That's a good point.
But yes, there is a little bit of homer. It's funny. I don't feel that in college football. I feel like I'm always rolling my eyes at SEC in general. But in basketball, I'm like, hey, give the guys
like
some
you
love.
want to stick up for him a little bit.
Yeah, stick it up for the little man. That's what I'm doing. You called me out on that one.
Off the top.
Tiger Woods returns to the course after finishing tied for 23rd at last month's Farmer Insurance Open.
Yeah, in the Riviera Country Club where he's playing now, most starts without a win by course. 10 times there, has not won. 12th career start at the Genesis Open, 11th at Riviera. So he hasn't done very well there. Let's see. Again, what are the goals for Tiger Woods? We can throw out all the numbers we want, but as he restarts yet again for his career now at 42 years old, it's what are the little victories we can look for as he moves on this season.
I thought it was interesting. He's paired with Rory McIlroy and Justin Thomas, I believe, this morning. And Rory said, he joked, I would have enjoyed a nice quiet start to the round instead knowing all the hoopla that's going to follow him. We forget guys really haven't had to deal with that for a while now, the level that Tiger used to bring. These guys are popular. These guys have played in big tournaments, but we knew what Tiger brought, especially down the stretch. That roar, the crowds that would follow, all of the media coverage. It's just different. And while it won't be to this extent, I think it's a reminder of golf's been missing a lot without Tiger, but that's certainly been a part of it that the other players haven't had to deal with.
It's a 10:22 Eastern time, tea time for Rory and Justin Thomas. I will say this when it comes to Tiger. We have such an eyeball on everything he does. I'm not sure that that ever stops, but I also don't think anything he does today, now, this year, fixes that, because no matter what he accomplishes, it's up against what he accomplished in the past, which he'll never do again. So it just feels like a lose-lose scenario for it. If he goes out and he wins, we're like, that's great. Let's see what he does again. And it just never ends. It's a spiraling thing.
Well, I mean, I get that to a point, but him winning a tournament now, I think, would be pretty big news coming up.
You don't think we'd immediately then turn that into, is he back? Can he win multiple?
Oh, certainly it would. That's going to come with the territory. But I mean, even to get to him winning a tournament, I think would be a wow moment for him now at 42, coming back, a fourth time? I mean, I don't know, because you're right. It will then go, well, now can he win a major? What's going to happen at the Masters? What are his odds at the Masters? I get what you're saying to a point, but the ratings are going to bear out. The people are still going to watch that thing to see what he can do.
Tiger interest will always been there. To Jason's point of, will we allow Tiger's accomplishments to still be celebrated? I think so. I think you're right. At this point, him winning anything is going to matter. Won 5 tournaments back in 2013, and really, it's been pretty dry since then. So if we get any taste, because I've been the one abstaining from all of this as much as the rest, saying, you're really going to have to show me something for me to buy into this Tiger fever. He wins a tournament, heart rate spikes a little bit. The meat sweats start.
Always comes back the meat sweat.
The Tiger sweats.
In fairness, I'd love to find out, because when Tiger's good, it's good for golf.
Absolutely
it's
right.
that easy.
Yep.
Off the top.
Michaela Schifrin won the giant slalom to become the third American to win multiple career Olympic gold medals in alpine skiing.
Yeah, she was behind. I think she was in seventh, trailed by 0.2 of a second after her first run, but came through and ended up winning by just about 0.4 of a second in that one to get that gold. And it's been a while. You know, they've had the delays on the downhill stuff with the high winds. That's just what you want when you're going 60, 70 miles an hour down a mountain, is you want to worry about winds as well. I mean, my God. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's an added degree of difficulty in all of this that you don't see from athletes in a lot of other sports. I mean, we know football, you have to deal with some of the elements, but again, that heightened sense of awareness around an event and an opportunity that comes once every 4 years makes this interesting. And for Michaela, she's had to adjust her course of events because of the way that things have been moved around because of the wind. So a lot of challenges, and I'll give you guys a freebie. Had Julie Foudy on before. Just very interesting look at the mental makeup of Michaela and diving into there. She'll have some great stuff for you guys.
We have her on today at 7:30 Eastern, like an hour and 15 minutes. You knew we had her as a guest.
Yeah.
And you took her as a guest this morning.
Yeah, I understand that. Listen, I understand the most capable hands are my own in this. I have an audience from 4 to 6 in the morning that deserves nice things, and I want to give them nice things. Do you have a problem with the hardworking people of the night shift?
No, not at all.
It sounds like you do.
I have a problem with the host of the show knowing what's coming up in a short time that he is going to be part of, to take one of the guests. Now, Julie, as the nicest person in the world, she's not going to say no to you. Quite honestly, she feels bad for you. So she figured,
it's not what she told me.
Guy needs a little bit of help in the morning. So, I'm going to go on and throw him a bone here, knowing full well she's got to come on our show.
She actually said it's a shame that we have to deal with the moron over on the other side of the hallway.
She said that about Jason?
Yeah. No,
it's Why do I feel like I now know what Thanksgiving feels like when there's like only one scoop of mashed potatoes left, and the whole Golic family's battling for it?
There's food in the air.
You know what? That's fair. You had a wonderful time and did, I'm sure your usual level of mediocre work with Julie this morning.
There you go.
Now the big boys will come in and we will take care of it and handle it like professionals.
Easy there, Kemosabe. This ain't Juilliard, all right? You're in my world now.
You know what? And that it is interesting because we're in here prepping this morning. We're getting ready for the show and diving through everything. And I hear you throwing all sorts of shade at not an Olympian is your hashtag in the morning.
Are you an Olympian?
And are you an Olympian?
Closer than you.
Mm-hmm. Well, you had a cup of coffee in the NFL. Does not make you an Olympian.
Yeah, you know what? It makes me more of an Olympian than Juilliard.
Was it even a cup of coffee or was it like iced tea? Because
do they even serve coffee to you at Juilliard?
Oh,
they allow that stuff, or is J.K. Simmons just throwing cymbals and trumpets at you?
I like the back and forth of this. I'm thinking it was iced tea.
Well, we have to leave him out of this because he actually was the closest one.
We're just ignoring the one true athlete in the room. That's fine. That's fine. No offense, Mike.
None taken. All right.
That's fine. That was off the top.
When you guys work together longer, you'll understand you don't need that last line there of no offense and all that. It just goes without saying.
Yeah, no, believe me, I'm still going to leave the studio, and Jason is going to be hugging to me and clinging to me with everything in him. So I understand the underlying love that it takes in this.
I feel like I've offered to be Big Spoon a lot, and you don't take me up on it.
An uncomfortable amount, though. Like more than you should. Like I actually thought of you. I was looking at the two-man luge, the partners luge, and I thought, who in their right mind would be interested in partners luge? It looks uncomfortable. You're one on top of the other, and I immediately thought Fitz. Fitz is the only person.
The two of you guys doing the two-man luge?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And it's, in fairness, I was asked the other day, about two-man luge. I think on Spain and Fitz, we talked about it. And I said, I thought you and I would make good two-man luge
I think
partners.
People need to be reminded again, you guys did a show together for a year, a college football show, so that there is some history with these two that just seems to continue to carry on here.
I didn't realize it was history that was going to lead us to the two-man luge, or else I'd have quit that show.
Oh, wow. See, who hurt you this morning?
Somebody did.
So, look, for all that conversation earlier, you said, Mike, that I shouldn't throw some shade on your Cavs.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm about to do. So the Cavs.
Really?
Yeah. The Cavs, they're going to enter the All-Star break in third in the East. But everyone now is completely confident they're going to waltz their way into the finals. Confidence theme brought to you by National Mortgage Lender. Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently. So Stephen A. Was adamant about his love of these moves and his own basketball knowledge and his ability to see this and know how it was going to play out. This is what Stephen A. had to say.
I'm of the mindset right now they'll cakewalk through the East. Because when you add 3 25-year-olds and an experienced point guard like George Hill, who's known as being a quality defender against opposing point guards, not to mention somebody capable of hitting 3-point shots of his own. When you have that at your disposal, when you have that available to you, you have upgraded exponentially. And if you've done that, how are we to look at the rest of the East? In Boston, Kyrie they don't have any depth. Toronto with DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, you don't know whether you can trust them. The Washington Wizards got emotional issues. Who's going to stand in the way of the Cavs? The Cavs are going, if they cakewalked last year through the Eastern Conference, why wouldn't they do it this year?
So we'll get to whether or not they can get through the East.
And by the way, you got all that. I've been saying that now for a while. I mean, is he taking my stuff here? Except I didn't know about the emotional baggage part of Washington going through that.
That felt like the Jason Kelsey speech again, where it got really specific towards the end in a way that the rest of us didn't know. Like the Washington Wizards got emotional issues.
What? And the Wizards are going, wait, what? What's he talking about?
But no, guys, that's been reported. John Wall and Marcin Gortat had to come to Jesus meeting. Bradley Beal, they're all yelling and screaming at each other. They got some things happening.
Well, yeah, I saw that. I don't know if that's emotional issues. That's normal team back. Emotional issues is like, where was Dad early on?
Yeah, that's emotional. Sounds like we know all that stuff. I mean, Mike's right. Emotional listeners are way different than yelling at one another. We yell at each other here and every day. It doesn't mean we have emotional issues. But emotional issues go deeper.
Here's what everybody's missing about the Cavs. Even if they waltz all the way to the finals, who cares? That's not good enough.
Yeah, I get that, but everybody's talking about up until last week that they weren't even going to get to the finals. Baby steps, man. Now they're back to where they were. They're going to waltz through and get to the finals, and then we'll see what they can do.
I'm just saying, when you have the iconic player of a generation, and maybe the greatest single player of all time, getting to the conference finals is a loss. That's not enough. And that's through all of this, they're going to cakewalk. Who cares?
Well, that's fine. Actually, the studio here cares. Behind the Glass is all in on the Cavs right now. Devin and Cliff have just alerted me. It's Cavs in 3 for the finals.
Wow.
Devin and Cliff have taken this 2-game sample size and said, we're good on your conference championship. We're going to win it all. So they are all in. I'm thinking about joining them. The water looks warm over there. I'm not really a toe dipper. I dive right in. I'm an Olympian.
And you're poo-pooing.
Oh, I'm poo-pooing all day long.
You're a poo-pooer.
Okay. If we always talk about maximizing the window of greatness. When you have LeBron James, losing in the finals is not the window of greatness. And the best case scenario for the Cavs is they're going to get waxed by either the Rockets or the Warriors. Congratulations. All you did was waste another year with the greatest player of our lifetime.
Are you and I going to have some bets? Maybe. I don't really like betting anymore, but I may have to do it with you.
Can we, like food? We'll use food as
without a doubt. It's food. Always.
That's good. It's got to be
either
cheap
food or
too.
lack of clothing.
I was going to say, maybe stop with that other one. We had to see that rehashed the other day. I think I'm good.
Coming up, Golic's going to defend his Cavs. Plus, they say the truth is stranger than fiction. And up next, we'll have a story that seems like it's straight out of a movie.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Hey there, I'm a glue stick, so I have one job. I glue kid stuff. So sorry for being jealous of Geico, who does a ton more, like give you 24/7 access to thousands of licensed agents. And Geico has been around for over 75 years and has a 97% customer satisfaction rating. While I've just got mediocre adhesive skills, Geico also has an award-winning mobile app. Uh-oh, arts and crafts time. No eating the glue stick, Miss Lydia.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey. And Mike, we were having a little bit of a
little disagreement there. I about the Cavs. So you're basically saying doesn't matter about the Cavs got this new team. Getting to the finals and losing does nothing while you have the greatest player in the game right now, right?
Right. No, that's it. Yes, it's an epic failure. If you don't win,
an epic failure.
It's an epic failure.
Golden State right now has a team that some may be, be a dynastic type of team with the players that they have. So if LeBron gets there and loses, I mean, that's an epic fail.
If we looked back on the legacy of, not even legacy, I don't want to use the word legacy because I hate that in sports, but we get into this conversation. If you just look back during, let's say, the Jordan era,
right.
If Michael Jordan lost an NBA final, how would that be viewed? By him, by the people around him, by the organization with him? Would that be viewed as a failure?
Well, you mean after winning 6 or
that particular year?
One?
Yes, that particular year.
If it was his second time in the finals, I don't know if it was when Michael Jordan hit at his highest point or while he was going up to his highest point. There's two different things we're talking about here.
Well, if Michael Jordan at his peak, because right now what you have with LeBron at his whatever age, whatever he is in his career, he's somewhere in the peak process of it because he's still playing at such a high level.
I completely agree with that.
So now you've got a iconic player that's quite simply capable of taking over any game and leading a bunch of bums to virtually anything when he's engaged and interested in it. If you don't win a title with that guy, then you have failed that year.
I don't know. I think you got to look at the opponent as well, and you got to look at what Golden State is and what they've built and how good they are. Did Jordan play any against teams like Golden State?
No, absolutely. But at some point, when you look at, for example, what Houston's been able to do,
right?
Houston has the best record in the NBA today because they made the aggressive moves it takes to get some superstars together, and they're combating the best team, the dynastic team to that point.
And it's halfway during the season,
right?
And does it matter right now?
Well, I mean, who do you think has a better shot at beating Golden State today, Houston or Cleveland? Because I would say Houston squarely.
Right. I need to see still more of Cleveland. I think I like the pieces Cleveland has together, and I've only played a couple of games together. I get that, and they're still on that excited honeymoon stage. We'll see where it levels off. But you can't deny what Houston's doing right now. I completely agree with that.
I mean, at some point, the hot start for the Cavs feels to me like exactly what has to happen right now.
Right.
When you've got a bunch of guys, young guys that are together with LeBron, they're all super stoked about playing with the King. He's re-energized because the young guys love him. It's really easy right now. Honeymoon stage, I think, is the right way to describe it. And I think the reason we're seeing a shift in balance of power in the East is because they're in the honeymoon stage. And at the same time, you've got Boston over there who's been married for 30 years. And I don't really feel like, putting in the excitement effort right now. I'm going to wait till Valentine's Day and my anniversary.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
I think it's just different now with the Cavs because the team that's the best in the NBA is so much a favorite over everybody else. By the time we get to it, now we'll see with Houston and all that if they meet up in the Western Conference Finals and that. But just the thought of how good Golden State is and how favored they are over everybody else, because I get what you say. Normally, I would agree with that. The best player is going to lead him to championships, and with Jordan getting 6 of them. But I guess my point is, if Jordan were 1-0 in championships and then went to another one and lost it, would we be at the point of when he was 5-0 and say, oh my God, it's a failure if he doesn't win 6? Would have been the same thought if he didn't win his second? I think a lot depends on where you are and who the opponent is. This Golden State team, as I said, could turn out to be dynastic if they keep going.
It's Golic and Wingo. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey. And I would say this. I'm not saying that the Cavs are, as an organization, are a long-time failure, or even that LeBron is a long-time failure. I'm saying that this particular season has to be viewed as a failure if you don't win it all when you have LeBron as your big piece in all of this. And I think that the way that Houston has built themselves up, frankly, makes it even more of a failure because now you've seen somebody else
do it
from over here say, okay, well, we're going to address it. We're going to get it right. So you're sitting here saying, how is it possible that I have this and I can't figure out a way to do what they're doing? That's part of why I think all of this year, winning the East just isn't good enough.
I agree with that. Listen, we're in agreement on that. To me, there's a difference of winning the East and winning the championship. They should get out of the East. I think, especially after all the trades they made. And if you read, how Woj talked about the phone calls and the texts and everything to pull off all these trades, it's a fantastic read of how it all went down. But they needed to do that. They needed to put themselves in this position. So I'm with you. Getting out of the East, if they don't, that's a monster embarrassment, colossal failure. But getting to the championship, and if they were to lose to Golden State, while it would be a disappointing season because you have LeBron James and you didn't win the title, I don't know how much of a failure it would be given given how good the opponent possibly could be.
Do you not think if the Cavs don't win the title this year and LeBron moves on, that we'll be sitting down having a conversation this summer about did the Cavs get the most out of the LeBron era in Cleveland?
Did they win a championship?
They won one.
Okay.
Is that enough?
Well, how many or had they won before that?
I understand
how many
that.
Cleveland won before that?
I understand that, but we can also look back at the Colts, for example, that had not necessarily in modern history had the level of success, and then they bring in Peyton. And after Peyton's tenure ends there, what are the first thing we say is, did they make the most out of their era with a franchise quarterback? And that's what LeBron is.
If you're going to ask me if for LeBron, they don't win the championship this year and LeBron leaves and you look back and say, was it a success? I'd say yes. They won a championship. They got to the finals. They didn't win them all, but they won one. They got over the hump and they won a championship. For Cleveland, you got to understand Cleveland people will think that because they were starved for a championship. If this was in a championship city, maybe not so much, but just getting them there every year, and having the thought process that you could win it each year. Is it a disappointment to lose? Absolutely it is. But they got that one. That's going to carry some weight for a long time.
Do you not think, though, if LeBron goes to, as we've heard when we were together last week, if he goes to Philadelphia and wins a championship somehow, if he goes to Houston and wins a championship, doesn't that become part of the process that actually lessens the accomplishment in Cleveland if he just goes somewhere else and wins one?
It will, and I'm just speaking as a Cleveland person right now,
sure,
they've had no success in sports. No. For them, no, because they got the championship. Listen, we know LeBron went to Cleveland, went to a finals and got smoked when he first got there. Went to Miami and won a couple, so he won them there. Came to Cleveland and won one in Cleveland. I don't think anybody would be shocked if he does leave, and wherever he goes, they may win a championship. I mean, you're at that level if you're on a LeBron team. But Cleveland got a championship. It was a starved city for a championship, so they will always have that to fall back on. So I don't know if that's saying something about Cleveland that we shouldn't be as excited as we are if we keep going to the finals and lose, but they won one. They got that one. They got that championship monkey off their back. So at least they have that, and they'll hang on to that.
Well, and maybe it says something about me that I'm sitting here saying, one's not enough. Yeah, I get it. Coming up, a story that feels like it was lifted straight from a movie we told you we would tell you about. We'll get there next.
That was off your 10 years old classical violin at Juilliard. Jason Fitz, that's what he did, the Mr. Classical Violin, played the fiddle for the band Perry for a number of years. But we were trying to say, what did we do at 10 that was anything close to that? And the answer was nothing.
Well, or you can look at it this way and say, I peaked at 10. So it's all been really downhill since then.
You had that great middle school athlete who dominates everywhere, and you go like, oh, my God, can't wait to see what that kid turns into. And it turns out he peaked in middle school.
That's exactly where it was.
Stop.
I could dunk on a 6-foot rim. Speaking of which, by the way, I'm getting blown up on Twitter for my hot Cavs take here.
Of course apparently.
You are. That whenever you say something people don't, they just come at you. But somebody does say, can a musician be considered to have a successful year without winning a Grammy? Yes. So can the Cavs without winning a championship? I sound like an idiot.
Wow, that's an interesting take.
But I will say this.
Yeah.
As someone that's been Grammy nominated twice, I don't consider either of those successes. No, I'm not proud of the fact that I was nominated. I'd be proud if I won. So that's part of how.
So you weren't even proud that you were nominated? Man, you're hard on yourself.
The whole it feels great to be nominated, not on the Grammy. And there are musicians that specifically put out records for Grammy consideration. And if you do that and you don't win it, if you're one of those elite world class, for example, classical musicians that's putting out a record and you're like, I want to win a Grammy for this thing, and you don't, then no, you don't look back at that record like it's a success. You look back at that record and say, what did I do wrong? You get back in the studio and you try again. Yeah. So to Dream Crusher as his name, I'm not trying to be Dream Crusher. I'm just saying that if you have the best player in the world and you don't win a title, you have to look back at it and say, man, we didn't do enough. That's simple to me.
Wow.
But again, maybe it's a me thing. Maybe I am wired wrong. I am willing to admit. My wife tells me all the time that my expectations are hard to.
Those are lofty.
Well,
I mean, you would have fit great with Ricky Bobby. You ain't first, you're last.
Ain't first. Hey, you know what? Maybe they're lofty, but I can say this. I played Julie. I played Carnegie Hall as a kid.
You did?
I had a successful career in country music.
You did?
Now I work at ESPN. So maybe having lofty expectations is part, maybe my weird wiring is part of what.
Yeah, you may want to rethink that.
Yeah. And also, maybe I should just learn to enjoy it. So speaking of lofty expectations, the Jamaican bobsled team, we all had lofty expectations for the Jamaican bobsled team. And suddenly things have gone a little awry. I love this. The coach of Jamaica's women's bobsled team said Wednesday she's quit the squad and she's demanding reimbursement of the team's sled, which she says she owns.
Yeah, she basically wants her sled, she wants to take her sled home or say, pay me for it. Sandra Kiriasis, I don't even know if I'm saying it right, and I apologize to her if I'm not. She was a gold medalist for Germany in 2006. Said she was forced out of her job when her role changed, but she also said it was her contacts that led to the team securing the sled, and now she wants payment for it. She said after some distorted facts appeared in the media about my departure, she wanted to set the record straight. She basically said they changed her role on the team, really downplayed it, so she said she wanted none of that, so she's leaving, and she wants payment for the sled. So the two young ladies that are set to begin training Saturday for their first heats next Tuesday and Wednesday, they're hoping to become the first Jamaican women competitors in the sport. It's been 30 years since the Jamaican men's bobsled made Olympic history in 88, led to the movie Cool Runnings. But they're not sure they're going to have a sled to do it. I mean, how troubling is that?
This is totally the equivalent of the kid that brought the ball to the playground and you're all playing, then he's not getting enough shots. He's not happy. And all of a sudden he just picks up the ball and he leaves.
Yeah.
Which probably would have been me as a kid.
That would have been you, huh?
Yeah, for sure. I would have been like, I'm taking my ball. I'm going home, kid. I'll admit that openly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. This is amazing. They may have to withdraw from the games for lack of a ride. They placed 7th in a World Cup in December in Germany, its highest finish after switching from a Japanese sled to the now disputed sled that we're talking about. So they may have to withdraw.
Maybe I'm going to show my stupidity here. You don't have a backup bobsled at the Olympics?
I listen. Jamaican
is that normal? Like usually,
well, Jamaican bobsledding isn't normal. All right. I mean, it's not. We're going back to 88 and Cool Runnings when we're talking about, and that was a men's team. Now we have a women's team here, so it's not the norm. So I don't know how well it's funded or enough to have a backup sled. Be like going into a NASCAR race saying, this is all we got. Don't mess it up.
We're going to use these 4 tires. If this goes wrong, we'll just see you on the other side. I mean,
but that would be a shame. You know, you work to get there and you're there, and then you got the lady now saying, yeah, I'm out and I want my pay for my ride. That's my ride.
There is a real life point to that, you know, on a more serious note, you've trained to be an Olympian. You're there. You finally get your Olympic moment. I cannot imagine what it feels right now, what it feels like to have the rug sort of ripped out from under you. And there's no win out of this. If they turn around and pay for the bobsled, you know, it's still an awkward situation. If they try and keep the coach happy by changing the responsibilities, that's equally awkward. And if you're an athlete, you're just sitting there saying, man, I just wanted to compete.
Yeah. That's exactly right. So you have the side of the athletes that want to compete, the side of her as a coach who says her role got downgraded and basically saying she's being embarrassed out there, so she's not hanging around for it. And, oh, by the way, I got on that sled, so pay up or no sled. I mean, that's a tough, you don't hear that much.
And how do you go back to your home country, and really in any country that you're competing in, being the person that took the bobsled back? I mean, that's really difficult. I would think when you go home, everybody's going to sort of side eye you at the grocery store.
No,
right?
I don't think she's going back there. She won an Olympic in Germany, for 2006. So I don't think she's making her home there, at all. She's getting out of Dodge. So I hope they get their sled. You know, you hope they run. I don't think the expectation is they're going to win a medal, but you just want them to be able to compete.
Coming up, a shocking first-round pick that ultimately proved to be worth it. We'll talk about it next. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio.
Stoli Vodka is one of the world's most awarded premium vodkas. With a commitment to uncompromising quality since 1938, Stoli controls every aspect of its vodka making, from planting, harvesting the finest ingredients, to distilling and bottling. This process has been followed for decades to guarantee the consistency and quality and signature ultra-smooth taste in each iconic bottle produced. Isn't it time you picked up Stoli Vodka for a try? For those who know their vodka well, and themselves even better, Stoli, the vodka. Check out Stoli as the official vodka in Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. Enjoy responsibly. 40% alcohol by volume. Imported by Stoli Group USA, LLC, New York, New York.
we've got a lot of sports we're going to get into.
Yes, we do.
And we'll continue to break down everything that we've been arguing a lot this morning.
Yes,
about the Cavs. And we'll continue that. But before we get there, we do want to, again, remind everybody Stu Gatz is going to be with us in about an hour. And it's particularly impactful as he lives in Parkland, Florida. We want to take a moment and just sort of again, pass along our prayers, our thoughts, our condolences to the victims, to the families, to the community that are dealing with this incredibly tragic incident, as the most recent reports show that at least 17 adults and children have been killed in the mass shooting at the high school. So we just want to, again, pass along our thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, and Stu Gatz had tweeted out that he does live within walking distance of that school. He says our hearts and go out and prayers go out to everyone. What should not be forgotten are the incredible acts of kindness I witnessed that make me incredibly proud to say I live here. So again, Stu, we normally have a lot of fun with Stu, and we'll have some, but I mean, this is horrific what went on. If you spent any time watching it yesterday and then ended up seeing that video from inside the classroom where one of the students on his phone and you could hear the gunfire, it's just horrific, and it's got to make you just so damn mad that it just keeps happening over and over again, and everybody will start pointing the finger at everybody else and yelling out what should be done, and then, like in the past, nothing got done, and then it happens again, and we go through this whole thing again. It just, I can see, and then to be close to it like Stu was there, frustration is the wrong word. Anger's got to be a word. Just disgusted has to be a word at how this just keeps happening and nothing seems to be done time and time and time and time again as our kids end up shooting one another. It's ridiculous. It's so sad, and our thoughts and prayers couldn't go out enough to all these people and all these victims and their families.
I'm not smart enough to know a solution, but I am hopeful enough to think that whoever leads us can be that person that can be smart enough to figure out ways that we can prevent this from happening, because whatever that solution is, we need to figure it out.
Yeah, we haven't seen it yet, so we're gonna need something here. Hopefully we get something. Hopefully it all leads to that. That's all we can do is keep hoping and trying to work toward that. That's the expectation, but we'll see.
Well, for more details, you guys can always go to abcnews.com where they'll keep you up on it. Obviously, our job here is to entertain and talk some sports, and we're going to get back to that. There's no easy segue to this, but we do want to get back to it, so we're going to get you caught up on what's trending. The Yankees could be considered the favorites in the American League, but that doesn't sit well with Astros pitcher Justin Verlander. MLB Network host Chris Russo suggested that the New York Yankees are the favorite to win the AL title. Verlander responded to Russo's quip by tweeting, "I can think of a reason." On Wednesday, when asked about his rebuttal, Verlander stood his ground. This is what he had to say.
Everybody's got to say stuff to get views or get likes or get whatever. But obviously I think we're the team to beat, but I don't really care whose opinion, especially people that don't play. It's everything happens between the lines. I think the American League goes through us. Obviously, the old saying, to be the best, you got to beat the best, and I think we proved we were last year.
I mean, listen, this is what we do. In the off season, you see what teams lose, what teams gain. We know what they gained in New York, and you make your predictions based on that. But at the end of it all, I agree with Verlander. I said you can think what you want, but until the top team gets knocked off, they're the top team as far as I'm concerned. And if they're not, then okay, then you went through them. But that they're at the top of the heap right now, so that's the team you got to go through.
I do, though. I find it humorous that whenever an athlete doesn't like something you've said, their first response is, "I'm only worried about the guys that played the game, and not people that need takes for clicks." And it's funny that we don't live in a world anymore where you can just think something and people that there's always got to be some vendetta. Like maybe Chris Russo just thinks the Yankees are the best team in the AL, which is okay. It doesn't have to mean that he's doing it because he wants people to click on an article. Like genuinely, people can just see these things differently. I can see the Cavs a certain way. You can see the Cavs another way. And it doesn't make one of us biased. It doesn't make one of us out there hunting for an audience. It just means that people see it differently.
Yeah, play or not play, everybody's allowed to have their opinion, and some are into more sports than other sports, and they break things down. They have their opinion. You make your predictions. There's absolutely positively nothing wrong with that. I rarely, if ever, try and use the line, you didn't play, I played, you don't know, because it sounds bad, number one. And everybody can have an opinion. Everybody can look at things. Everybody can break things down. Now, there may be places a player can go that someone who didn't play can't go in some aspects of the game. But to look at teams, how they're built to be into a sport and have an opinion about it, everybody can do that.
And I'll continue to say, whether you love or hate the Yankees, this year they are particularly amazing for Major League Baseball. When you combine the young guys, when you look at Aaron Judge and you bring in Giancarlo Stanton, you have a reason that casual baseball guy is going to keep a side eye on the Yankees, and that's good for the sport. That's good for the conversation. It's good for eyeballs. So if this can turn out to be some sort of a heated rivalry where the Yankees are just so good and the Astros feel disrespected, that is great for Major League Baseball.
I completely agree, and I love what the Yankees did. We talked about it another time on this show, that they're opening their spring training games up 3 hours early instead of 2, so people can come in and watch the bombs get hit in batting practice. Bring your mitt and catch some baseballs.
Yeah, I'm not athletic enough. I'd still miss it somehow. I admit that, though.
Off the top.
Well, that's off the top. That's the wrong one. Let me try this again. I'm going to try it again. I'll get it right this time. Here we go.
There you go.
See, it has the little sound effects on it.
You can do it.
I feel proud of this. Tiger Woods paired with Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas at the Riviera. The Genesis Open gets started today. The threesome will tee off at 10:22 Eastern.
Yeah, this is a place he hasn't won. 10 starts there. Most starts without a win by course. Tiger Woods, as an amateur or professional, it's Riviera 10 times. So this is, and forgetting all that, we're still in the comeback stage of Tiger Woods. Golfed in a couple of tournaments. The first one he didn't have to worry about a cut. Played through the whole thing. Last one he makes the cut and plays 4 rounds. So we'll see. Now this time, we'll see if he drives better. His driving was awful in the last tournament. Now let's see if it picks up in this one, or what. I really liked what he said. I think we played it yesterday, or the day before, where he talked about how he's feeling, knowing his own body, and he can make the adjustments on the course, which I think is money. I mean, this guy's 42. He's been through a ton of operations. Nobody else is going to help him with his swing now, I think, more than himself. Of knowing the injuries, knowing how he has to play, knowing how his body's going to react, and knowing the type of swing he needs. And he says, I can really only get that adjustment in the tournaments I'm playing in, so this is just the next one to help him down the road.
Don't you think at some point that's part of why it's difficult for a lot of people when they watch Tiger to simply understand the fall off of Tiger? Because while he's had a bunch of surgeries, you don't think about that. You don't see it. You don't see the scars. You don't see the difference. You see the difference in the swing, and you're trying to figure out why. But the fact is, his body has been beat up for a long, long time, and he's essentially got to relearn how to play within whatever the spectrum of his play is.
And it happens to everybody. If you play long enough, between age and injuries, you just aren't the person you were, when he first started out. Nobody is in any athletic endeavor, so you have to learn ways to compensate for that. If you were really good at this one thing, but now because of age or injuries, you can't. You have to find a way to get around it. And then golf is such a precision sport. It doesn't take much to get thrown off.
Do you play a lot of golf?
I do not. 4 or 5 times a year.
Well, in Connecticut, it's too cold, right? Like it's a
little cold. I'm just not into it enough. Then now, Greeny played all the time. Trey plays all. They love it. They are golf freaks. I play 4 or 5 times a year. As I've said, mid-90s, drunk or sober. I'll go play in these tournaments. Greeny would always say, man, if you took some lessons, you could be good. I'm like, I don't want to take it that serious. I don't want to ever go on the course and start to get mad at myself because I hit a couple bad shots. If I hit a couple bad shots, I just want to grab another burger, another beer, and say, oh, well, hit another bad shot and move on.
I kind of feel like I should bring a bottle of cherry vodka and we should go out.
You should. You golf?
No, not at all. So you and I should go out and play.
Right.
But just don't tell Trey. Like, we'll go out and play with Trey. And
so you want me to cheat on Trey and you don't want me to tell him?
No, I want Trey to come out with us. And then we'll throw it under the guys that we're excellent golfers. And then we'll just let the cherry whipped vodka flow and just see how.
By the second hole, he already knows I'm not that good of a golfer.
Okay.
I've golfed with him more than a few times. And I've hit a golf ball at his house a few times, actually.
Oh, well.
Just because I can.
Wow.
Yeah.
You can't do that in my one room apartment. Well, it's just working. We're getting there. You're having a good day if you can hit golf balls at your house, but you're having a bad day, get used to it. The average American experiences 60 bad days per year, a new study has revealed.
A survey of 2,000 working Americans examined how we deal with stress and what exactly a bad day consists of and what effect it has on our health. I guess that would be the biggest question to me. What would be considered a bad day? You know, like I had to come in here and work today with you. Automatically, is that considered a bad day?
No, that's a great day. I mean, that's one of those, like, let's be honest. You came in with a little extra pep in your step.
Actually, I came in, my back hurts a little bit. I wanted to go home. Yeah. And then you were sitting here. And so it really kind of accentuated a bad day.
No, what he's not telling you is about 10 minutes into, he's sitting here and he's like, man, my back hurts. I don't feel good. And then he's like, but you have this energy. And now we're practically tap dancing during the breaks.
Oh my God. This is one of my 60 right here. One of my 60.
Oh, man. So that gets you caught up on what is trending. It's a bad day today for Sebastian Janikowski.
Yeah.
And it's, this is just convenient timing, but I'll take it all day. We got to talk about your Cavs earlier. Now we get to talk about my beloved Raiders.
You are a Raiders freak fan, right?
Yeah. That is true, for all the things I've accomplished in my life. One of my favorite accomplishments, playing the national anthem on fiddle before the Raiders game twice. I've done it.
How nervous were you?
Not at all, because I've played the national, in fact, the girl that coordinates all of that, she stands right on the 50-yard line, and I'm standing 2 feet from her, and they were timing an overhead flyover because it was it was Veterans Appreciation Day, and they had a 100-yard flag behind me. So they're timing all this. She was very nervous. I had to hit this at an exact time, but we were fine. I actually ended up calming her down right before all of this. She's like, oh, we got to get this. We got to do this. I was like, you know what? We're going to be fine. And then I'm thinking, I'm calming her down before I play the anthem.
You don't get nervous before this stuff.
No.
See, I would get nervous for every game. How do you not get nervous?
No.
Butterflies, nothing?
No. You just sort of go out and you do your job. And I will say this, really cool afterwards. Derek Carr, it was in his rookie year, the first time I played. He came up to me afterwards, did the bro hug, and was like, dude, that was one of the best anthems I've ever heard.
Really?
And as he walked away, I was like, we're besties, but I don't think he heard it. So,
I'm sure he did.
It's a bad day for Seabass, because the report has come out that his tenure with the Oakland Raiders has ended. That's a tenure that started in 1999. If you are a Raiders fan, you've been used to fat guy going out there kicking the heck out of the football for an entire generation. It's over now.
I mean, 17th pick of the draft. For those that may have not remembered, he was a first-round draft pick as a kicker. 17th pick in the draft. He's the leading scorer, all-time Raiders leading scorer with 1,799 points, 11th leading scorer in NFL history, and he turns 40 on March 2nd, and he'll be an unrestricted free agent, and the Raiders basically said, you're not going to be back here. Will be interesting. Does he want to continue to kick? 40 years old, does he want to keep going? We've seen other kickers go into their 40s. Adam Vinatieri, he's 40. He might be. Riley can find that out for me real quick. I think he's in his 40s. So, I mean, it certainly can happen if he still wants to do it. He's 45?
Woo!
Okay, I didn't think he was that old. He's 45. All right, that one shocked me a little bit. But will he want to kick anymore? I mean, he's got that booming leg. And
he spent last year on injured reserve for the Raiders. Tavecchio came in, kicked well. I think the writing's been on the wall a long time.
I agree.
For this. Now, I realize the 17th overall pick for a kicker is stupid, and I'm not going to try and justify it.
Amazing.
I will say two things about it now, though. History, hindsight, 2020. He is the leading scorer in franchise history and has been playing for since 1999. Yeah. So you're talking about a long career. Right. That's staggering. The other thing that I think people forget, the year he was drafted, the season before that, the Raiders lost 4 games that year by 3 or less points. And Mike Husted was their kicker that year, went 20 of 31 kicking field goals. There was a perception on an 8-8 Raiders team that they were a kicker for fans. For me as a kid, I was like, man, if we just had a kicker, we'd be 12-4. So as much as the rest of the world was yelling about, oh my God, how could you pick a kicker? I think Raiders fans took that at the moment saying, you know what? It makes sense. He's the one need.
Listen, when we sit there and say, was this guy, did he live up to his pick? The 17th pick of the first draft for a kicker, unheard of. He's the leading scorer in Raider history. I'd say success. I'd say he lived up, right? I mean, how could you not? He's the leading scorer in Raider, and people may say, oh, it's by volume. Okay, still around to do it. And, he's scoring the points to do it, and that's what missing last season as well. I find it interesting. Again, he was a Raider in 1999. The last time he wasn't a Raider, Steve Berline led the league in passing yards with over 4,400 yards. Jimmy Smith led the league with 116 receptions. Bill Belichick was an assistant coach for the Jets. And the expansion Browns had just finished their first season. back in Cleveland.
Golly.
That's been a long, long time.
So that all happened in 99. He was drafted right after that, right? So he was drafted at the beginning, in the 2000 draft. So, to think about Bill Belichick was an assistant coach with the Jets. I mean, that was
amazing.
The Patriots were just a dumpster fire in that period. And we forget that. I mean, Patriots fans don't even remember what that moment is like. Just like, frankly, Raiders fans, most of them don't really remember a lifetime without Janikowski.
No, without a doubt. Yeah.
I think one reason the timing of it surprises people is because in our minds we try and put these pieces together. And you can speak to this, having played. Is there any thought where John Gruden's coming back and John Gruden was his coach back then? So maybe you keep the guy around because you want to like rekindle.
No, I mean at the end of the day, you're not worried about rekindling. You're not worrying about kumbaya. You're not worried about everybody feeling nice. You're worried about winning games. And John Gruden doesn't feel that Janikowski puts them in that position right now. That's his sole thought. He can say, hey, we can remember the good times. We've always shared those. Slap on the back, shake your hand, and say, sorry, but we're going to move on. So, no, there's no warm, fuzzy feelings going on. It's business. And you got to put the team on the field you think is going to help you win best.
If there's one thing I do believe as a Raiders fan, though, it's a organization that appreciates legacy.
Phenomenal.
Seabass will be back. I mean, there's a point where he'll be back and around the organization. You don't do what he did.
They're great at that. Raiders are great at that. So I agree with you.
This is just the beginning. Now, obviously from one first round pick that worked out to another that didn't, there's some Johnny Manziel news as we find out that he's going to be participating in a developmental spring league. So former Heisman Trophy winner will participate in the developmental spring league this year as part of his attempt to return to the NFL. This is tricky for me, Mike, because I love the concept of second chances. I love the concept of giving guys opportunity. That's fine. I understand the way the world works. But Johnny came out last week, for anyone that didn't see it, and admitted to being diagnosed with bipolar disorder and is now medicated. That's a very difficult piece for me, in my mind, for an NFL team to wrap their head around, because for people that are medicated, one of the challenges is they start to feel better, and how do you keep them on their meds? So you talk about specifically a quarterback, and you talk about the NFL trying to give somebody a second opportunity. That's tough to do on a difficult to quantify sort of situation for him.
Well, and whenever you're dealing with something out of the ordinary, and this would certainly, when you're dealing with outside of just breaking down a football player and other issues that they're dealing with, it's just a plain fact, and everybody knows that the better you are, the more they're willing to deal with. It's just a plain fact. The better you are, the longer the leash they're going to deal with you. And Johnny Manziel hasn't shown anybody enough to say you're worth the pick. Forgetting the disorder that he has, that he admitted and that he's taken meds for and working on and such, is before any of that even comes into play, he'd have to show the NFL that he could play the position, which he hasn't done. And how far this spring league goes, I don't know. I do like the fact that guys have a chance. This started last year. I think it was at the Greenbrier, where they had 4 teams and they played a few games, and then, some scouts would let it, and basically what teams will do is they'll request the game film and look at the film. So it's a chance, for this. A guy named Brian Woods started this. He's the guy that started the FXFL that my son played in, as well. Unfortunately, in that went a year, and the guy ended up not paying a bunch of the players who he said he would. So that didn't work out so well, with that. But there's not the issue here because they're not paying the players here. It's basically just, hey, we're going to come showcase you and get you on film, and then if you want to try and get another chance, that maybe some scouts or teams will look at the tape or come watch the games. It's in Austin, Texas this year. There's going to be 4 teams. There's going to be a couple of doubleheaders. It's over like a 3-week period from the end of March into April. And then I have no idea how many teams will watch it. With Johnny Manziel involved, I'd imagine a few more will keep an eye on it. And these are for players, who are just looking for another chance. Because I guarantee you there's not going to be any medical going on there. If you want to roll the dice of getting hurt, you're going to roll the dice. But that's a position a lot of these guys are in. There's no, you can go to Canada. And I think part of Johnny doing this and not going to Canada's 2-year commitment. And I don't think he wanted to be away for 2 years. He wants to get in the NFL right now. And he thinks if he shows his wares there, maybe someone will sign him right now. This will end right before the off-season programs begin. And if it doesn't work out, then maybe he'll go to the CFL after that if he wants to keep pursuing it. He said football is his life. He said this is what he wants to do. Okay, we're going to see, how much are you willing to do if this doesn't work? If you don't get the bite that you want, will you take it to the next step? Will you go to Canada for 2 years and really where scouts will get to see you throw a ball a lot to see if you're worth picking him up? Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS-consumeraccess.org number 3030.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like I'm on top of the world.
Disclaimer, you will not be transported to the top of the world. In the unlikely event you find yourself at the Arctic Circle, seek shelter from the elements immediately to avoid frostbite and or hypothermia. Geico will not be responsible if you find yourself in a cave or crevasse with a lonely abominable snowman, who in all likelihood will force you to play games including but not limited to Go Fish, charades, Chinese checkers, or his personal favorite, Red Rover, send Yeti on over. Geico is not liable for any damages, either physical or emotional.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. That was actually the theme of the 2016 Summer Olympics for Team USA.
Oh, there you go.
And that was the band Perry. So, yeah.
All right. How about that?
That's why I got to go to Rio, was because we had that. So we had to play that song at the Today Show.
I was going to say, did you enjoy Rio? But I don't imagine I don't know how you couldn't, right?
Yeah, Rio was amazing. And being at the Olympics, it was a life-changing moment for me.
I'm so jealous of the people there. That means I'm so jealous of Julie Foudy.
Well, understandably so.
Yeah.
And let's get there, obviously, because with the Winter Olympics, which Mike and I are both massive fans of, we've been trying to cover it all week and talk a little bit about it. Julie Foudy, ESPN Olympics correspondent, joins us. And Julie, you talked to Michaela Schifrin, who won the gold medal. You talked to her before the run. That means obviously your advice leads to gold medals.
There you go.
What advice can you give me to help me make it through the rest of this show?
That's clear. All my advice just changes people's lives.
It's good.
She's actually amazing when you do talk to her, because there's not a lot of athletes who want to show their vulnerability. And when she talked before the Olympics, it was about how she was literally, we said, take us through your mindset at the top of the mountain when you're about to go. And she gives this really candid answer about how she has, on one shoulder, her angel telling her she's going to be fine and you're going to be great. And on the other shoulder, she's like, the devil's telling me I'm literally going to die. It's steep. It's icy. And I was like, come on, that doesn't happen. She goes, no, I am not kidding. That happens like 10 seconds before I take off. And I said, what do you do? And she goes, the gate opens and it's like, shut up. She says, I turn to the devil and I go, shut up. I got to go. But and to see her, do what she did today after the delays, after all the pressure. I mean, think about all the eyeballs on her and the attention. And it's not just, Michaela Schifrin's coming to win a gold medal. Michaela Schifrin could win multiple gold medals. And in skiing, we know how hard that is.
And you talk about the mental side of it, because as athletes, there is that side of it. Physically, you train to do something, but then there is the mental issue. And then when something changes along the way, not that they're not used to it at some point, but when her schedule gets compressed, how does she deal with that mentally when all of a sudden that part of the game changes?
Well, I think she has been built, with her family and her parents, and you read her story for this moment. And it's amazing to watch how little sets her off. And as we've seen with all great athletes that transcend, is there's just an ability to get yourself in that bubble and stay in there and stay focused. I was talking last night to Steve Nyman, who raced in 3 Olympics. He's an alpine skier and knows Michaela Schifrin quite well. And he said there's no one better at just her locking in. And he said it helps because she's a great napper, which is what she did actually between runs today. She said, yeah, I took a nap. That's what I always do. He said it helps. She's a great napper and that she's just able to lock in. So clearly today she had the angel and the devil under control and was talking to the angel at the start of the race.
Julie Foudy, ESPN Olympics correspondent, joins us. Sorry, Julie Foudy. I don't know what I'm thinking here. I can't read today. Julie, you've competed in the Olympics, and you mentioned a little bit the focus, but ultimately one of the tricks I think that's interesting is that guys and girls are all competing at different times. How do you balance trying to keep that focus when even the other athletes in other sports around you, some of them are getting ready, some of them are done?
I know, and that's hard when you're living in the village, actually, because, for example, Chloe Kim, who, has this incredible run, and she's done early in the games, as you see with some of the snowboarders. Well, you have some of your team sports like USA Women's Ice Hockey, who's also staying in the village, but they've got to go, for the duration. That was always us with soccer. So as everyone's finishing, the noise escalates daily and the parties get louder, and it actually becomes a problem. You see a lot of athletes who have had in the past to move out of the village to stay in their own kind of quieter space and stay focused. But that also is the joy of the Olympics, is there's this really wonderful, magical feeling to it when you're here and competing. That's just so fun. And so people really try and embrace that.
So along those lines, before we get into some of the other sports, so staying on that, because they finish at different times, do most of the athletes, or how many of the athletes, actually just hang around and say, okay, I'm done. I'm just going to kind of stay here, and for lack of a better term, I'm going to stay here and party and enjoy the Olympics?
Yeah, a lot of them do. But what's interesting, what's happened now with some of the higher profile athletes is you'll actually see them, and even ones who, which is amazing to me, they're still competing. Like, for example, Red Gerard, when he won gold early in the Olympics, he actually hustled home back to Los Angeles and did some media out in LA, and then is coming back to compete in Big Air at the end. So, Jamie Anderson, when she won gold, she was actually considering going back to Los Angeles to try and capitalize on that window. And I think a lot of these athletes realize there's a very small window here for me to gain some notoriety and popularity, and I want to capitalize on that. But they also have to balance it, especially if they're coming back to do more competition, and it's not an easy flight, 12 and a half hours, although it was very nice for me coming out.
I'm with you, though, and on their thought process of trying to capitalize. And on that note, Julie, who do you think is going to be? Is it going to be Chloe Kim? Who's going to be that winner? In the summer, you have the Michael Phelps of the world and anyone from the U.S. gymnastics team. But in the winter, it can be a little harder at times. Is Chloe going to be that one, or somebody else?
I think it's Chloe Kim for sure. Well, you have the bicontinental thing too, with her parents being here from South Korea. So she is just a rock star here in South Korea, but then also getting so much traction at home. But I also think we're going to watch really the Michaela Schifrin story unfold right while we're here. I mean, here she is going to race on Friday, tomorrow, here in South Korea, in her signature event, the slalom. So 2 gold medals possibly in 2 days. It would be 3 gold medals in her career at 22 years old. There's no other American skier that has done that. So I think Michaela Schifrin, if she can capture gold in the slalom, she is the Olympic and reigning world champion in that event, then that obviously a story that is going to take America by storm.
Julie, you went to the U.S.-Canada women's hockey match last night. Describe that rivalry a little bit, and what do you think needs to happen for it to go differently next time?
The U.S. women's team. I've been following them for so long, the ice hockey team, and know many of them quite well. So I've lived through some of the heartbreak of the last 20 years. The last time the U.S. women's hockey team actually won an Olympic gold medal was in 1998 during the Cami Granado days. And so Canada in the last 4 Olympics is always the one knocking out the United States, typically in the final. And so they had them actually in group play, and ended up almost out shooting them by a 2-1 margin, but ended up actually losing to them 2-1 in group play. But of course, the game that they're really gunning for is the finals. And so I actually talked to a couple players after the game, and they said, listen, we had 45 shots. We only got 1 goal. That's the message then, and the confidence we're actually going to take going forward into the semifinal. And hopefully we get another bite at Canada in the final. But that is a rivalry that is just so much fun to watch.
And they could have used your slap shot face plant, that's you when you practice.
Yes. I actually, I pulled them aside after the game and said, let me talk to you about my slap shot here.
So you throw them off by your face planting that they don't see the puck going. Hey, on the other side of not so pleasant stuff, Shaun White wins his 3rd gold, but then what had the sexual harassment from his past had come up. He used the word gossip, came back later, apologized for that. what's going on with that there and him hanging out as opposed to it coming back to the States?
Yeah, I was actually at that press conference when Matt Gutman with ABC News asked the question, and as soon as he said gossip, I just cringed because you knew it was going to happen after that. So I mean, obviously, I think if he had handled that as he did with his statement that came out later saying, look, I acknowledge that I didn't treat Lena well, and I'm sorry for it. She's a friend, especially because she was a friend, and I want to be a better human now. I think if he had said that on the stage, then, the last 24 hours and that whole cycle wouldn't have happened. But he didn't, and so it continued to go on. But he is by all accounts from those around him in the snowboarding world have said he really has actually changed, is what they all say. They say, look, years ago people would have talked about Shaun White in a different light. Now actually he has a really good team around him. He's kind of been on a redemption tour, and he's a better human being. So I don't know how long you can stay a prisoner to your past, but with those 3 Olympic gold medals, it was quite a feat for him from an Olympic standpoint here in Pyeongchang.
Julie, real quick before we let you go, though, with that being said, do Olympians that are representing our country need to be held to a higher standard than most people when it comes to the ability to go represent the U.S.?
Absolutely, and I think he understands that as well, which is why you have to address it at that press conference. And especially because, as he's competing, you would think his team of people around him would know this is something that's a topic on Twitter. This is a subject that's being discussed in the social media circles, and be aware this is coming, and make sure you address it in a way that actually addresses it, that doesn't dismiss it as gossip. And so I think that's a big miss on his part and his team.
Julie, to end this on more of a lighter note, and I just like you to state it for the record that you went on my son's show, my son Mike's show, first and last because you felt sorry for him, correct? I mean, you knew you were coming on this show. You kind of threw him a bone to go on his show, did you not?
I just feel sorry that he has to work those hours, actually, Mike.
That's fair. Well,
I guess that's true.
He might have had we'd like to think our interview was just staggeringly better, Julie. So if you could just make sure Mike knows that we did it better, that's really the important part.
He was quite excellent, I might say.
No, you're not helping us at all.
Runs in the family.
Yeah. That's not, we'll edit that part out. Hey, thanks, Julie. Appreciate your time as usual. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. No problem.
Julie Foudy.
I'm so jealous of her I want to be out there so bad covering Olympics.
I think we just need
such a great job.
We need to start making a play now for the LA Olympics in 2024.
Here's the thing about it. Would I like to go do something with the LA Olympics? Yes, because it's the Olympics. I'd like to go somewhere else.
You Olympic elitist.
I'd like to go out of the country for the Olympics. I mean, I listen, I'm not going to turn it down. I'd still go cover it because it's the Olympics, but I wouldn't mind, going somewhere.
Well, why don't we get, I think Paris is in a couple of years, right?
Okay.
So we'll go to Paris. We'll try things out then. And then,
all right, that works.
Yeah, or Tokyo. Tokyo's coming up, whichever one's next. If you need, a friend to tag along and really, carry your bags.
I'll put you in the overhead.
That's perfect. I'll fit there. Coming up, swiping right turned out to be quite all right. Details next. It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Things got weird without me for a few days.
Haven't we all in our life at one point maybe didn't have as many clothes on and got oiled up? You know what I mean?
Like, does a massage, like if you're laying down getting a massage, does that count?
No, I mean in another aspect, like I did for the butt photo.
No.
There's never been a point in your life.
Believe it or not, there's never been a point where I would just walk down and been like, you know what I need today? Some oral. No.
Some Earl?
Earl, yeah. It's
Earl?
It's a reference to a TV show.
Practical Jokers. All right,
yeah,
all right.
There you go. Yeah, I don't need, nobody oils me up. Although, maybe, would you not be a little weirded out if I was oiled up before I came in?
Given the fact that I've done that and my wife had to apply it with a paint roller, wasn't the sexiest thing in the world.
Your wife is a saint. I swear to God. I mean, there's no doubt about it. By the way, I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey, so we're not talking about Trey oiled up here. Just to
no, that would be clear. Horrific.
So to be clear, tomorrow, if you were to walk in the studio at say 4:45 in the morning, and I was sitting here in like WWE tights, just oiled up,
right?
Totally cool. We're just going to do the show.
I think so. I'd want an explanation, but I wouldn't be. I wouldn't.
I'm just going to say fashion every time you ask me.
All right. I'd go with it for a bit.
Boy, things just got weird. Yeah. And things are getting weird around NBA promotions too. Because look, I get it. I get that we got to find a way to make every game interesting since you just have games where coaches don't even do their jobs. But the Hawks have found a new way to do that with their swipe right night. Yeah. So they had Tinder night, and now apparently Tinder night has made a match made in heaven that's going to result in a marriage.
Yeah, it was a swipe right night in 2015 and for the Atlanta Hawks. And basically, a couple that met because of the swipe right night are now getting married this March 3rd in just a couple of weeks because of that night. They had Tinder night in 2016 was updated on the couple status, said the two should, if they decided to seal the deal, it would be on the Hawks, and that's exactly what's happening. They're getting married at center court of Phillips Arena in front of more than 200 guests on March 3rd. Hawks sponsor David's Bridals, providing wedding dresses for the bride as well as dresses for the flower girl, the mom, and 11 bridesmaids. They're going to have the reception right in there as well. So they're getting the whole deal done right in Phillips Arena, care of the Hawks, thanks to Tinder night.
I'm just saying, this is a smart move by them. Even if they're not in love, you get a free wedding out of it.
Even if they're not in love?
Yeah, you get a free wedding out of it. Like, if you're just in the...
wedding? Wait a minute.
You're in the, like, maybe this is going to work out. Let's just do this now because the Hawks are paying for it and we get to register everywhere. You get presents and a free wedding. I'm a frugal man. This sounds like a great idea.
So you're like, let's do this whole thing and not sure if we even are going to stay together.
Yeah,
but let's take the wedding at Phillips Arena, take the food, take the booze, take the gifts, and then we'll decide if it's going to work.
Why does this sound shocking? This sounds like absolute logic to me. I mean, I think this makes total sense. A free wedding? I mean, you have daughters. Like, free weddings? Yes, you should be on this.
I would like, though, the person, them to love one another.
That's probably a fair point. Coming up, the strange way that one Olympic delegation is